We pride ourselves on being a dissent tradition. I looked up the various definitions of dissent straight out of the dictionary. To disagree with or reject the doctrines of authority of an established church. Definition number 3. But it might as well be our definition, right? We pride ourselves on disagreeing with or rejecting the doctrines of authority or an established church. In fact, look at our history. History we're very proud of. Generation after generation of Unitarian Universalist religious leaders who disagreed and dissented from the majority. Starting with William Ellery Channing, who first articulated what Unitarianism was. He dissented from mainline Christianity in saying that what matters the most is not the Trinity, but Jesus' life example and his moral teachings. We got then Unitarians who disagreed and dissented from William Ellery Channing. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "You didn't go far enough. We need to look at the source of the holy and the sacred in our lives, and that light is within each and every one of us." You had the next generation, Theodore Parker, who said, "You, Ralph Waldo Emerson, didn't go far enough. If the light of that holy is within each and every one of us, it means something. It means that there must be that light in non-Christians as well as Christians." The next generation after that saying, "Well, then we should build bridges with people of different religions. You still didn't go far enough." And so and so and so. Our tradition has been one of dissent and a process of a dialectic of being in dissent and arriving at new understandings, but always a tradition of dissent. We pride ourselves so much in that, in fact, that we even refer to ourselves as a tradition of heretics. That's how much that notion of dissent is embedded in our religious identity. Now, nothing wrong with that. Some of our deepest, most beautiful values emerge from that dissent tradition. But how well do we understand the views of those that we don't agree with? And, well, frankly, does it matter? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I had a chance, having attended a Catholic university, to learn pretty deeply about Catholicism and the worldview that is shaped by the Catholic faith. And something I'll tell you, the Catholic faith tries very, very hard. Now, they're not always, but they try very, very hard to be morally consistent. Something you can't fault them on. They really try to be consistent. Now, we disagree with them on so many major things, for the most part. Issues of choice around abortion and a woman's body, issues of gay rights, gay marriage, so many other things, that contraception, so many different things that we disagree with them on. But if you look at the core assumptions of the Catholic faith, and I think it's important to look at their core assumptions. We don't do justice by our religious counterparts when we say that they simply don't recognize or accept or revere human dignity in the same way that we do. There's something faulty with their understanding of human dignity, which is frequently an undertone of a lot of religious dialogue, even amongst Unitarian Universalists, frequently an undertone. They don't get human dignity in the way that we get it. But let's look at some of the core Catholic ideas. Their basic worldview is shaped by an understanding that the creative act of the cosmos coming into existence, that Big Bang, everything that came to exist because of that cosmic act of creation, we replicate that. We act in its image when we procreate. That act of creation, that initial act of creation, we act in harmony with that. We replicate that. When we ourselves are procreating and creating life, it is that sacred. It's as sacred as the beginning of time when life is created. From that idea, from that understanding of conception, Catholics emerge at their sense of birth control and why one would not want to stop an act that they revere with such beauty and such symbolic importance. That in turn informs their understanding of abortion. If something is created in such an inspired cosmic sacred way, how could one want to abort it? That in turn forms their understanding of marriage. Marriage is that holy context in which the creative act of life exists. All of that being grounded in their understanding of the beauty and act of creation. Now, taken in that sense, many of us Unitarian Universalists would even agree and say, well, the act of the cosmos coming into creation, absolutely, beautiful, meaningful thing. And when we do procreate, when we do form babies, that is a beautiful act, often enough, frequently enough. Now, we have a different understanding there in many contexts. But, we may disagree with where the Catholics wind up with their theology, with their religious understanding, their spiritual understanding. We may disagree with them, but we can't fault them on their assumptions. Their assumption and their reverence for life is there. There is no fault in their dignity, in their sense of human dignity. Their reverence for human life is there. It's a different understanding of that reverence of human life than ours. We don't do justice to our religious counterparts when we dismiss them by saying that they don't respect human dignity in the way that we do. They're operating with fundamentally different spiritual and religious assumptions. Okay, so what? Do I have to even understand the Catholic viewpoint? I mean, we know what our values are, right? Why does it matter? Why does it matter at all? My very first job right out of college, I worked for the U.S. government, and I was stationed to the Middle East, to the Persian Gulf, to a country called Oman. Very exciting time. I was 22 years old, thereabouts. I had my own house, I had a car, I was earning my own living, on my own, first time in my life, no longer financially dependent on my parents in any way. Very exciting. I'd just come out to my parents a few months earlier, right before they came to visit me in the Middle East that first time. Now, coming out of the closet to them at the age of 22, incredibly imperfect. Incredibly imperfect. I flew into town, visited them for one day. Mom and Dad, I'm gay. I left. I would even say in retrospect, cowardly, but I was 22. Months elapsed after my visiting, dropping the bomb and leaving. And they came to visit with me in the Middle East. They were going to stay a week, something like that. First night with me in my living room, my house. You have brought shame on us, said my dad. How can you be living your life in this way, this lifestyle? It's disgusting. Where are your values? You're throwing our family's name in the mud. You're a disgrace. You're going to rot in hell for this. You're in my house. Leave. Leave. What's at stake? What's at stake when we don't hear one another? Our families are at stake. Our communities are at stake. How we live together in society is at stake. My dad, not able to understand my life, my viewpoint, the way I was understanding my own life, living my life. Did he know? Did he care that even a year earlier I was standing on the middle of a bridge thinking of jumping off of it? Did he know? Did he even care? Did he bother to ask me what my journey was and how I arrived at that point, that time in my life? In fairness, did I care what his viewpoint was? I didn't. I really didn't. Born and raised in a conservative culture, very conservative, orthodox, traditional culture, he never knew anybody who was openly gay. This was all new